Today's topic, which is the CAD file version updater. Now, I've created a project for today's workshop and I've broken it down into a set of actions so we can step through them. It should be quite a quick workshop today, and the first thing to mention is why the CAD file version tool is needed. For Inventor, SolidWorks and Solid Edge, if you upgrade your version of CAD, then the file format can be changed by the vendor. So what happens is, if you, for example, load a SolidWorks file that was created in 2016 version and you're now in 2024, it will warn the user that the file needs to be updated to the new later file format. So when it does that, you've then modified that file. When you then do a save to DDM, DDM is going to warn you that you've modified the file, but you cannot save it because it might be a released item. So if you have released information in your database that is an older CAD file version and you've upgraded your CAD, you end up in a catch-22 situation where it thinks it's modified, but it can't save because it's released. Okay, I'm hoping that's clear to everybody and we can answer questions later if it's not. So, for Inventor, SolidWorks and Solid Edge that suffer from this problem, we've written a tool called the CAD file version updater. It's not required for CAD or Creo. As you can see, I've put the comments in here. Okay. If anybody who is a user of Creo or CAD and they see this problem, then please report it to support and we will investigate. And if it's to do with file versions, CAD file version, then we can write a tool to address the problem. Okay. So this is why this particular tool is needed. I'm going to set this task as complete because this has been covered. I'm going to use the example first of Inventor, which is the Autodesk 3D tool. And I'm going to go to my file system. Now, this utility can be run on any machine provided you have access to the CAD application on that machine. So the scenario is you're looking to upgrade your CAD application, and when you upgrade your CAD application you should run this tool on a machine to update all of the file versions in the background, and therefore when you load a file that is released, it's not going to report that it's an old file version that needs saving. Okay, so some of you will have seen this problem. If I go into the C:\Design Data Manager directory, inside here there is a subfolder called PDM Integrator for Inventor. Now this lists the various versions of Inventor. I'm currently using Inventor 2024. Inside this folder there is an application called DDM Inventor Version Updater. If I run this application, and it might be that you have to be an administrator on your machine to do this, so if that's needed, be aware of it. I'm just going to tile this here. Now this is the tool itself, and this is the one specifically for Inventor, and what it's telling me here is that I've got Inventor files at version 2023. There are 72 parts, 29 assemblies and 10 drawings that are an old file version. I've already run this a few times, so some of them have already been updated to 2024. The options we have for running this, and I would recommend if you're going to try the application, try it for a small number of records initially. So I'm going to run this for only 10 records to make sure the tool is running and to make sure it's working properly. So be a little bit conservative or cautious. Don't just go in and say update everything with it, at least testing it first. Now, I'm going to open my Inventor 2024 and I'm going to tile it on the screen so we can see what's happening. So I've opened Inventor 2024. I'm going to run all issues. I'm going to process the oldest files first, and I want it to update drawings, parts and assemblies, but I only want it to run for 10 records. So another comment here is, this is an activity that really should be run by whoever your DDM system administrator is, or your IT department. So if you're a user of the system, clearly don't go off and do this without consulting who looks after your DDM or somebody in IT that looks after it. You definitely don't want everybody jumping in and trying to run this tool. So I'm hoping that's obvious, but I do need to make that clear. Okay, if I say update versions, what it does is it will just sit there loading and saving all of these files one at a time, updating the file version. So I'm just going to run it for 10 records, and it just sits there. I'm not sure why it's restarted Inventor, but it is. Okay, and it's going to sit there loading and saving. So I'm testing it with 10 records only. There is also an option while it's running here, start Inventor every 100 records. The reason we've built that into the tool, so I've now had a message to say it ran for 1 minute and it updated 7 records. I don't know why it only did 7 when I've told it to do 10. I have no idea. But it's then gone through a few of these records. I'm not going to tell it to go off and do more because I just want it for demonstration. This restart Inventor every certain number of records is because the CAD applications are not designed to load, save, load, save, load, save continuously, and they don't leak memory. They don't clear memory as efficiently as they should over time, and therefore if we didn't restart the CAD application periodically, it would run out of memory and it would fall over. So we've built in the option for you to be able to say every 100 records restart the CAD application. So that's the example for Autodesk Inventor. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close AutoCAD. I'm now going to go to Solid. Well, let me go back to my DDM here. Okay, so we've looked at Inventor, and I'm going to say that has now been complete. Well, next we're going to look at SolidWorks. So for SolidWorks, I can go in and check. So my version updater application, I'm going to log in as the administrator. I'm going to tile this as I did before. And you can see here that I've already run this on my entire database. So if I say here, I've got 3,050 parts, 975 assemblies and 1,388 drawings, but they are all at version 2024, so I do not need to run this tool for SolidWorks. Your database will clearly report different things if you're running SolidWorks. All of the other options are exactly the same. So I'm going to close this one. So we've discussed SolidWorks. That's now been complete. We're going to run it for Solid Edge. Now, the Solid Edge version of this tool, because we have a new interface for Solid Edge, the application that we are looking for is in a folder called DDM CAD. It no longer has its own subfolder. It's in a common folder called DDM CAD. So let me reiterate, for Solid Edge customers, you're looking for the application in the folder called DDM CAD. And in here, there's a file called DDM Solid Edge Version Updater. If I run the tool, again, exactly the same. I log in as the administrator. And I'm going to tile that here. I'm going to minimize DDM. I'm going to start Solid Edge. If you don't have Solid Edge running, it will start it for you. I'm starting it so I can tile it on the screen so we can see what's happening. Okay, so Solid Edge is now running, and again, my options are all the same. In my database, I've got 1,062 parts that are still at an old file version of 2023. This time I'm going to say do it for only parts and assemblies. I don't want latest issue only. Process the old one first and only run this for 10 records. Okay, that 10 is the minimum, by the way. Okay, and then if I run the version updater, it will now load and save files in and out of Solid Edge to update the file version. Well, let's give it a second. So it's a really useful tool if you upgrade your CAD version to process the files post upgrade to update the file version, so users are not prompted to update things that they're not allowed to modify because they're released. The reason there was a delay there is because it's just loaded a very large assembly, so it had to bring it out, load it and then save it back. So that first one was a very large thing, and then it will start rippling through things a little bit quicker now. So Solid Edge has now been through and processed 10 records in 3 minutes, exactly as we did for Inventor. And obviously, once you've done an initial test on a smaller number of records, you could then run this on any client machine for all of your files. Clearly, if you run this application on your server machine, it will need to have the CAD application installed to do it. Some people are not going to like that because IT wouldn't want the CAD application installed on a server. However, it would run a lot faster on a server because the files are all direct and it will process them a lot quicker. But if you don't have to monitor it, having it run on a client machine over a weekend and through the night, it can just sit there in the background working until it's finished everything. So I'm going to close the updater for Solid Edge. I'm going to close Solid Edge. Okay, I'm going to jump back into my DDM because we've cleared the Solid Edge one. That's now been complete. I'm going to set this as complete because we believe it's not required for CAD or Creo unless somebody reports that to us as a problem. And if you do, as I mentioned earlier, we will then look at developing the same tool for Creo and CAD. Okay, so quick recap. DDM file version updater is that when you upgrade your CAD application, you can run this tool on a client machine or on the server that has access to the CAD application, and it will update all of your file versions so that if a user loads a part that's an old file version and it's a released part, it will not prompt them telling them that they need to save, but they can't because it's released. So it gets you out of that catch-22 situation.